If Kentucky basketball were to land Jasper Johnson, he would be the perfect commitment for Mark Pope.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, and on today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be discussing Jasper Johnson, the five-star combo guard that will be deciding where he is going to school next week. Super excited about this prospect. I think Kentucky has a great chance to land him, and I also think that he is the perfect, and I mean perfect, commitment for Mark Pope and the Wildcats. Going to dive into why in a little bit, as well as some win totals. An interesting poll that the Herald Leader ran just a couple of days ago. Before we get into that, I want to tell you guys today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate GM. Ultimate College Football Head Coach is a brand new mobile game that is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Begin your coaching legacy today. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. And if you are watching on YouTube, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to the show. And if you are listening on podcast, I would also appreciate it if you subscribed there as well. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. I believe that Jasper Johnson would be the perfect pickup for Mark Pope and the Kentucky Wildcats. Obviously, Cats picked up four-star center Malachi Marino just a couple of weeks ago. Big time prospect, number one overall center in the 2025 recruiting class. Love his game, and I think that he projects out to be a very, very strong player. I've raved about him and his skill set on this show, but I want to focus here today on a prospect that I think is the perfect Mark Pope recruit, and that is Jasper Johnson, a five-star combo guard, like I mentioned, in next year's class, a 6'4", 175-pound player, number 10 player in the country, number 2 shooting guard, and number 3 player in the state of Georgia, according to 24/7 Sports and their composite ratings. On3 has him as the number 11 player, number 4 shooting guard, and number 3 player in the state of Georgia. Big-time player out of OT Elite. Tay Kenny, actually, a player we talked about on yesterday's show that unofficially visited Kentucky yesterday, will be joining Jasper in his senior season with OT Elite. Kenny, actually originally from the state of Kentucky, as well as Jasper. This is, first of all, the perfect recruit for a couple of reasons that we just listed. A 6'4", 5-star shooting guard that is originally from the state of Kentucky. He's perfect because he is literally one of the best players in the entire nation with his 5-star rating, top 10 player consensus or 15 player consensus across the board, one of the best scorers in next year's class. We'll dive into his game just a little bit more and kind of how it fits here in a second, but he's perfect because he's a 5-star. Pope needs to be able to go out there and prove that he can get the best of the best. He can get the high-end talent. Can Kentucky continue to sustain success on the recruiting trail with Pope as head coach? And this would be a huge step in the right direction, confirming, yes, in fact, just about anybody could recruit at Kentucky, but Mark Pope's capable of doing it at a very high rate. The second reason why this would be a big-time pickup is because of where Jasper is originally from. He's from the Lexington area originally. His family is from there. He was born and raised there. He is going to have an opportunity, Mark Pope is, to prove that, hey, not only am I interested in getting the best talent, but I'm also interested in really cultivating a pipeline here in the state of Kentucky and kind of rejuvenating, I should say, not necessarily a pipeline, I shouldn't say that, rejuvenating in-state recruiting for the Cats, kind of bringing in some guys that are homegrown, that have grown up watching your program, have grown up dreaming about playing for your program, and here you are now being able to get them the opportunity to come and actually do so. Guys like Marino, guys like Kenny, guys like Jasper Johnson, all of these guys from the state of Kentucky, if you're able to get them in here, you can really start to build a deeper connection, I think, with your state. Not to say that Kentucky hasn't had had it in the past. I'm just saying Pope has done a phenomenal job identifying it and going straight after it. Guys like Trent Noah, guys like Travis Perry, who he was able to bring in this year, making a point to get some of these in-state guys, and they're not just here. By the way, they're not just, oh, there's that dude. Yeah, it was some mid 3-star prospect. No, Perry and Noah are excellent. Guys like Johnson are elite. If you're able to go out and get Johnson, he's perfect because he's a really, really solid in-state recruit that continues to prove just how good Kentucky can be in recruiting and how good Kentucky wants to be in-state developing their talent. He's also a perfect fit because of his skill set, because of his elite scoring. Go and watch any highlight reel. Go and read any scouting report. Everyone is saying the same thing. This kid knows how to get a bucket. Originally Johnson was listed at combo guard. He's now listed at shooting guard, if I'm not mistaken, on most websites. And we're going to get it to kind of my thoughts on that later on down when we're talking about his skill set, because I've been saying the same thing from day one about him, shooting guard, combo guard, point guard. But he's able to score at all three levels. Elite skill set, able to create in isolation. I think he's got great handles for a guy that's 6'4", 6'5". He's got legitimate length there as well, so he is a threat on all three levels. The layup package is tough. He knows when to stop and take floaters instead of aggressively driving to the rim. He's really aggressive, speaking of that aggression, in transition, whether that be going to the rim, stopping for a floater, or stepping back and pulling up from three. It's a little bit of an awkward shot, but it goes in, and he is a confident three-point shooter, an extremely confident three-point shooter, and that's something that Mark Pope is going to want in his offense. You've already got a couple of guys this year that I think are going to prove what you're looking for. You're looking for a lengthier, taller player, typically, on average. Somebody that is willing to pull the trigger, and is somebody that can create at all three levels and pass as well. And I think that Johnson also definitely has the ability to pass, but just as a pure scorer, you're looking at somebody that fills a role next season that maybe someone like Jackson Robinson fills this year, and that is just pure bucket getter. Pope needs to prove that he can and will develop NBA talent at Kentucky, continue to do that. Obviously, I think that is it was an important aspect of Coach Cal and his career here, and his ability to prove that he can get guys in, develop them, and get them to the league. Obviously, Pope taking a little bit of a different approach as far as the way that he wants to develop his guys, with more of an emphasis on what you're going to do for the program and less of what you're going to do in your future career with the NBA, more than likely. But it still needs to be something that Kentucky is capable and does actually do, bring guys in and put them in the league. Somebody like Jasper is perfect to show what you're capable of from a physical standpoint, what you're capable of from an IQ standpoint in a system, and then what you're capable of if you put those things together and put them in the next level. Everybody in the NBA is looking for versatility and scoring. Jasper, I think, can provide that for you, especially once Pope gets done with him. He knows as well how to work off ball. If we're talking about IQ here, I think that's an important aspect of this. Pope wants to run that space and pace and three-point shooting and all that good stuff. Jasper works so well off the ball, similar to a guy like Jackson Robinson this year. You're going to pair him up, hopefully next year, with a really good point guard that knows how to distribute super well, and maybe, just maybe, Jasper could, I think if you bring him into Kentucky, he could lead the team in scoring next year. I mean, I really do. Just the way that he plays so confidently, shooting the basketball, commanding so much attention from the defense as well. He plays so well off ball, getting to his spots, running through sets, cutting, kicking back out. He's a smart kid. He's a smart player that knows where to go to get the ball and score. I think that he is perfect. You talk about the importance of height and length for Pope at 6'4", 180 pounds. He's got long arms. Something that's interesting that I've yet to actually go and research on this show. I did it today. It's funny that we're talking about Johnson and we're just kind of having this conversation in the middle of it, because I know I'm going to bring it up later on in the year. Pope likes the lengthier wing type, right? He likes to have so many of those guys up and down the roster, specifically kind of bleeding into your backcourt, right? Interesting food for thought here. Only once did Pope finish, or in BYU finish underneath or outside of the top 75 in average height. during his time at BYU. So he spent, 5-6 seasons at BYU? Only once were the Cougars outside of the top 75 nationally in average height per player. They were consistently one of the taller teams in the nation. Last year, they were 19th in the country. Pope has more success with these taller, lengthier style wings/guards that can work their way up into the backcourt and handle the ball. It's the exact same thing that you see in the NBA. Teams pride themselves on versatility and height, and scoring. The NBA is pushing more and more in that direction. You see it with guys like Victor. You see players like Luka Doncic running point guard at 6'5", 6'6". You see players like Nikola Jokic able to handle the ball so incredibly well at 6'11". Somebody like Johnson at 6'4", coming in, stepping in, proving to you, hey, he fits in the system in so many different ways, right? Intelligence, scoring, frame, expectations post-Kentucky career. Everything is a green light. There is nothing about this prospect that I would say no to when coming to the University of Kentucky. I think he is the perfect player for Mark Pope and the Wildcats to pick up. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Is Jasper Johnson the perfect player for Kentucky to pick up? Obviously, they've not even picked him up yet. We don't even know if that's actually going to happen or not. My expectation right now is that he ends up coming to Kentucky. That's what maybe it's more of a hope, but there's so much going on right now that we just simply don't know about, and simply I can't even report on because and I'm not even usually reporting anything. I'm usually citing somebody else to make sure that I'm kind of covering my bases when it comes to talking to you guys about what's happening in the news cycle. The only thing that I've really stepped out and kind of stuck my neck out on was what was happening with Cal earlier this year, and the people that we knew were talking about it and ended up being right. So Johnson's recruitment will come to an end in the next few days. It's going to be fine one way or another, but if Kentucky's able to get him, and I hope that they are, so much chaos happening right now behind the scenes. If they are, I think he's perfect. Again, let me know what you think in the comments below. All right. There's an interesting article that the Herald Leader put out recently, running a poll asking people, what will Kentucky's regular season record be this year? And I want to kind of pose that question to you guys. I want to do that in just a second. Before I do that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Ibotta. Ibotta is a free app that lets you earn cash back every single time that you shop. You can earn hundreds on millions of items from groceries to beauty supplies and even toys. You can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you are purchasing. Other apps that give you points that don't amount to much, but with Ibotta, you earn cash back that you can withdraw to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. Simply add offers in the app, upload your receipt, and voila, the money is yours. You can save on over 2,400 brands, shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 for just trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONCollege when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning your cash back and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKEDONCollege. All right, continuing along here on the Thursday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. I really appreciate you guys checking out the show today. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel or the podcast feed, I would greatly appreciate it if you did so. Thank you so much to everybody that has already subscribed. Thank you so much to everyone that's tuning in on the podcast feed. If you guys are interested in joining a college football pick'em league that we could do this year, a Locked On Kentucky College Football Pick'em League, we could do it over on ESPN. Let me know in the comments below. I've been thinking about that. I think I may set one up here in the next few days. So, all right. There has been a lot of discussion so far this offseason about how Kentucky will fare in Mark Pope's first season. Of course there's been. There's also been a small portion of the fan base that has immediately tried to label success and failure strictly on a win-loss record, which is fine. But you start to kind of pigeonhole yourself because the postseason still exists, and there are so many other things that can factor into it. I think recently we've set some fair baselines for Kentucky as far as win-loss, SEC record, postseason success, recruiting. I said if Kentucky could get 2 guys by January, they would be okay in recruiting, and they may have 2 guys by the end of August. So I think we're doing okay. But there's so many different ways, so many different people are trying to like categorize expectations and kind of compile it together and say, okay, this is the standard, this is the line, and we're not going to go under it. And if we do go under it, it's going to be a serious problem for the Cats, right? Lexington Herald-Leader put out a very interesting article, I believe yesterday or 2 days ago, running a poll asking, what do you think Kentucky's regular season record will be in 2024-2025? And I want to ask you guys the same question. What do you think the record will be? Regular season. Don't include NCAA tournament. Don't include NCAA tournament. All right, before we wrap up the show, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at Ultimate College Football Head Coach. I want to take you a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love just as much as I do. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football team to glory. Wouldn't it be incredible to be the head coach, the actual head coach of the Kentucky Wildcats? From recruiting players to hiring coaching staff to overseeing training camps, handling school scholarships, you can control everything down to the last crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Would you be able to handle the pressure? I certainly have been in my first couple of years as the head coach of the Kentucky Wildcats. And here's what I really love about this game. You're responsible for not just managing the roster and everything, right, but actually calling the offensive plays during the games, which is super, super fun. You can get so creative with it. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but will shape the future and legacy of your program. It's completely free, has no ads, 100% playable offline. I've been playing it quite a bit here over the last several days. You can play on the go as you want and when you want to. All you have to do is go download the game. Ultimate-collegefootball.com is where you can find it. We have a special offer for you, of course, for Locked On Kentucky fans. Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, that's all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program. Make sure to take advantage of this perk as it will get your team off to a strong start. Again, download the game. Just visit ultimate-collegefootball.cfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com, or look it up on the app stores. Begin your coaching legacy today with Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Just the regular season. The most popular selection right now is 23-8. 23-8, 24% of the audience thinks that. 22-9 is the second closest prediction at 15%. Then 24-7, and then 21-10. The prediction from Great Kentuckian yesterday, longtime listener of the show, we kind of dove into his hypothetical of how bold of a prediction is it to say that Kentucky will have 6 losses or less, 2 in the non-con, 4 in the conference. 25-6 is the 5th most popular answer. Then it's 26-5, 20-11, 27-4, 18-13, 31-0. Only 3% said 31-0. I'm glad people are keeping it realistic. Then 19-12, 17-14, 14-17, and it just kind of, I believe it's just like one individual vote for any records, but beyond that point. But I want to focus here on these top 5 answers for a second. 23-8, the most popular selection so far. I'm going to be honest with you. If you asked me today to just like throw a dart at the board and just guess without even like knowing the schedule by heart off the top of my head, hey, what's Kentucky's win-loss record going to be? I would have said 22-9 or 23-8, somewhere between there. It's a one-game difference, right? Would probably lean towards 22-9, probably, because I'm scared of this non-con. I am scared of the non-conference slate. I am scared of the teams that Kentucky has to play in the back half. You're going to have to go on the road to Clemson, essentially face Gonzaga and Seattle. You're going to have to play Louisville at home, in much improved Louisville. Ohio State in New York for the CBS Sports Classic. And then, you played Duke like third game of the year, like earlier on in the year. It's just tough. It's really tough. I'm talking myself more and more as the days go on into Kentucky having success in this SEC slate, because I'm starting to wonder whether or not the SEC is as good as we think it is. Are the offenses in this league as good as we think they are? That's a major question I'm beginning to have. And maybe at the end of the year, we look up and we say, hey, the conference, as far as like offense and everything goes, the conference wasn't like great, right? They didn't shoot particularly well relative to other conferences, which you can very easily look at that stuff on KenPom, by the way. Maybe there were more turnovers. Maybe there was just more issues overall. And maybe that's the issue. Or maybe the league's just really good defensively. And teams like Alabama, teams like Kentucky, teams like Auburn, they're able to kind of overshadow everyone because they have really high-end elite offenses. Either way, I think Kentucky's going to be able to score. And at the end of the day, points win games. I think Kentucky's going to really have a lot of success in their SEC slate, especially if they're able to play semi-competent defense compared to last year, because last year there was no defense being played whatsoever. 23-8, though, is interesting. We did this whole exercise on yesterday's show. Whole exercise. Going through what would it take to get Kentucky, awesome voice crack, to get Kentucky to 6 losses or less. And there's a lot of different games. A lot of different games in this conference slate that make you feel worried, right? Of course, we just talked about the non-con and all of the games that are tough there. But there's a lot of really tough games, like flip games, that you don't really have a great grip on right now. To reiterate, and I had to pull back up my notebook here. We'll just start at the top. Clemson, Louisville, Ohio State. Those are games Kentucky can win and are probably going to be favored in during their non-con. But they're all question marks. They're all games that could flip the other way. Then in your SEC slate, I've got a ton listed here. Mississippi State, Bama twice, Texas, Tennessee twice, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Auburn, Ole Miss. A lot of games there that, most of them on the road, by the way, that you don't feel great in. You don't feel ultimately that confident in kind of where the Wildcats stand, at least as far as like preseason projection for whether or not they should be favored, right? Because we can sit here and talk about, well, on paper, Kentucky's better than this team. Like, yeah, but are they better on the road in the middle of February when one of your starters is out for several weeks? One of them is kind of like 75%, and the team is rolling in on a 5-game win streak, right? Like, or the opposition's rolling in on a 5-game win streak. Like, take Texas, February 15th, for instance. After you play Tennessee, let's say you're banged up, and Texas is hot, and they're looking at these final 7 games of the slate, and they're going, hey, we got a chance to be in the top 4 teams in the SEC. We got a chance to have a double bye, come into the league, first year in this conference. Let's make a statement. Let's go out there and win. You're hosting the blue blood, the best of the best, the Kentucky Wildcats. Fans are showing up. Everything's going crazy. Lights are as bright as they possibly could be for a big-time college basketball matchup. Are you able to go out there and still say, yeah, Kentucky's better on paper? Or they're going to go out there and they should be favored to win this game? Because there's a lot of things outside of just numbers that indicate this could go wrong. So there's a lot we just simply don't know, right? Just a lot that we have no idea on right now. And I think that's fine. I think it's fine. I think it's perfectly fine to in August be like, hey, what do you think Kentucky's going to do win-loss wise? Hey, what do you think they're going to do in the postseason? What are they going to do in the SEC tournament? Are they going to have any guys All-Americans? Are they going to have any guys on the first team All-SEC? Is Pope going to have success on the recruiting trail? That's the whole point of this, right? 23-8, 22-9 is probably where I'm sitting, even with all these tough games potentially. Even with all the tough games potentially. And I think that's okay. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Higher, lower than that, what would you give the win-loss record if you have one? Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at @LanceDawe_, and you can follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.